What is up, world? Welcome back to USCBR. That's Unscripted Comic Book Reviews. Today we are looking at Bombshells, Volume 5, The Death of Illusion. Now, this is unusual for me to just pick up the 5th volume in a series. Really, I was just kind of bored with the choices on offer at the store one day, and I saw something with Harley Quinn in it, and so I picked it up because she is my favorite everything. So this is a really interesting story. I didn't know what to expect, but it takes place in 1942. So it's right during World War II. I don't know the whole Bombshells series, if it's all in 1942 or if it just spread over the course of World War II. But the premise, basically, is that this team, the Bombshells, is a whole bunch of women who use different skills to help support the Allies against, the Axis. And so we got basically every female character anyone's heard of. There's Harley Quinn, there's Poison Ivy, obviously you would have seen her on the last page. And I mean, really, is Harley ever going to be anywhere without Ivy, or vice versa? You got Raven, who's rocking an interesting look, wearing devil horns for some reason. Lois Lane shows up. There's a character called Reaper, who I don't know if she's in the books normally. Like, I don't know who she is, if she's in, like, the present-day stuff. Supergirl's there. There's a version of Power Girl. The interesting catch of all this is that all these characters have different origins than they normally do. Like, Supergirl is Russian, and Batgirl, this was my favorite part. This was towards the end of the book. Killer Frost shows up, and that made me happy, because I adore Killer Frost. Anyway, the last sort of major story arc in the book, freaking Amanda Waller sends this individual, what's her name? Francine Charles, I think? So she sends Charles to go fetch Batgirl, who in this universe is a pilot, or was a pilot, and she was a really great pilot, so they called her the Batgirl. And she had a romance, and then it went bad, and then she disappeared into the bayou of Louisiana. I don't think it's stated directly that it's in Louisiana, but it's, like, obviously supposed to be. Well, then again, Belle Reve, I don't know how to pronounce that prison's name, but it's referenced by name, so, like, yeah. Oh, yeah, okay, we're in Louisiana. I mean, I knew it was based on Louisiana. I wasn't sure if it was literally that. But anyway, it's this whole story arc where Batgirl is somehow turned into a vampire and is camping out with Enchantress and Reaver, who is a character I'm not terribly familiar with, but her costume reminds me of Deadpool, so I don't know if she's just a gender-flipped Deadpool. In this story, she happens to be a pirate, which is pretty cool. I almost said pilot. She's a pirate. Killer Croc is here, because apparently he just has to be everywhere, even though he's not great. I mean, I don't like him that much. I don't know. But the last page of this book made me so sad. It made me so sad. And I don't feel like it's a major spoiler because it's mentioned on the back that this is going to happen. It's not really a spoiler, but... Because, of course, we had to have a Suicide Squad in this continuity. I mean, this one at least is more interesting characters. You got Batgirl, who is a vampire, Enchantress, and Reaver, who I guess is a seer, I think. She's got some kind of magic powers. And you got Charles, who is essentially our Rick Flag of this unit. I mean, I'm going to assume so. Obviously, I haven't read what happens after this. They've just formed the team. But, you know, she's just a normal human with no powers as far as I can tell, which would basically... And she is, you know, in contact with Waller, which I assume would make her basically the Rick Flag of the team. If I ever gain an audience, somebody's going to call me out on the bullshit that I complained so much in the Suicide Squad review about how Waller in the movie smiled, and she's not supposed to do that. Well, this is an alternate continuity, all right? So the fact that she's smiling doesn't negate what I said. Suck my balls. Not a ton more to say. I guess I really liked this book. It was weird. There were some parts that were a little confusing as to what was going on from one panel to the next. Things characters said didn't exactly seem to make sense with what was happening. That happens to me. That happens to me very rarely. It happened to me a lot when I was starting to read comics. I feel like there's a sort of literacy you build up. You start to learn how panels tend to flow, how dialogues will flow, even when it's going in weird places. Like, I enjoy this thing that DC writers will do where they'll have different panels laid out over a larger background. They do that a lot. This is kind of one of those too. I find that really cool. So yeah, pretty good stuff. I'm definitely going to go track down volume 1 of this series at some point and read the whole thing. This book's from 2017, so it's not like super old. In fact, I should probably see if Bombshells is still a continuing series, although I would guess not because there's no Rebirth banner on the trade, and that's kind of like, I'm talking that shit at the top. Like, they even released a jokey holiday book I just saw on the shelf the other day, and it's green, but it's still that Rebirth banner at the top, the stripes and shit. So that's Bombshells, Volume 5. Oh, I mean, I've said about the premise, I guess, because it took me the longest to figure out that, right? Because I was just jumping into this series that's completely different from anything else DC has going on, or has had going on as far as I know. But this volume is called The Death of Illusion, and that's basically what it's about, in brief. Each of the characters at some point has a sort of epiphany, and a certain illusion that they had been holding, or that someone had been holding over them, is broken or dies. And so this story is all about the death of illusions. Except that last bit, which is really just about Batgirl being a vampire, which is hot. I like that. I like the fangs. She looks good. All right, peace.